Training. My name is Rob. We're going to get started in just a minute. I have a stream also with LinkedIn, so I'm just making sure that they are all dialed in. So in the meantime, please take a minute and think about what questions you might have about JQL. You also hear me use the term Jayquill, which is jokingly how I pronounce JQL as a word, although there's no official guidance yet from Atlassian on the proper way to pronounce it. So please take just a minute and figure out what questions you might have, and we will be getting started in just a minute. All right, we are live over on LinkedIn, and we can, for some reason, it likes to let me hear myself when I do that. All right. So we are here to talk about JQL. More specifically, we're here to talk about how do we find things in Jira. Because one of the most frustrating things for me and many other people is just being able to find things in Jira because we spend a lot of time in it. If your company uses it, you probably spend a lot of time trying to find things, fumbling around, looking for information. So we're going to spend some time today exploring JQL, which is a tool we can use to find stuff in Jira. Got that set up. And if anyone's in chat, if you can hear me, please give me a thumbs up or some indication that my audio is actually coming through. I always have a paranoid thought that it won't work. Liz, good to see you. All right, folks, like most of my live streams, we're going to start out with some slides to talk about concepts and ideas that are important in our understanding of JQL and searching. Craig, thank you for letting me know you can hear me. I'm also going to drop a quick poll in the chat. All good. Thank you all. I like to think I'm good, but it's great to hear. Dropping a quick poll in the YouTube chat. Just asking how frequently y'all use JQL. Quick way of introduction. My name is Rob. I've been working in the Atlassian ecosystem or using Atlassian products since about 2013. And I just like to remind myself of that. And I do these trainings because when I started, I personally had no training. I didn't have a guide. I was just told, that's Jira, that's what you go use for work. And my first time using Jira was to report a bug. So that was my entry into Jira. Kima, welcome from Dortmund. Good to see you. Since then, I've had different roles, mainly as some kind of project manager, scrum master, that kind of thing. Did I not put daily? YouTube only lets me put 4 things in the polls. I'm tinkering with different solutions, Dan, to give us more options. Anyway, since then, I've learned how to find things in Jira because I had to. I was responsible for helping teams use Jira to track work. I was responsible for reporting to executives. I was responsible for making sure things moved. And the tool I used for that was JQL. Now, you'll hear me use the term Jayquill. That's how I pronounce JQL, in the same way people pronounce SQL as SQL. So if you hear me use the term Jayquill, I'm referring to JQL. I'll do my best to call it JQL just so I don't confuse folks too much, but that's what I call it. Now, we're on YouTube and LinkedIn. Please use the chat that you have, whether it's a comment or the YouTube chat, to communicate. Please put your questions in there. Please put your comments if you want me to back up or dig into things more. Please let me know. But also, I do this full time. My job is to train on Atlassian and create content. And so you'll hear me just ask you for your support. One way you can support me is subscribe to the channel. I do weekly videos. I have a lot of live streams, a lot of great free content. Subscribing is a super simple way to support me. The easiest way is hit the like button. Should be a thumbs up that you see. If you're on LinkedIn, you can like the post as well. But that helps other people find this. And I guarantee you there's more people who need help with JQL. So help them find it by hitting like. Also, on the screen, there is a QR code that goes to a course I've created over on Udemy about searching and finding things in Jira. This is another way to support me. Check out the course. The discount code I'm putting in, and that link will take you to a special Halloween discount on the course. It's a few hours of finding the basic search, JQL, a whole bunch of tips and tricks, some of which I'll show you today. And one other shout out to that course. If you have any kind of financial hardship, let me know. I can hook you up or find a way that works. My email is in the bottom, robert@hean.tech. So today we can't talk about all of JQL. I will probably do follow-up sessions that dig more into aspects of JQL that everyone will find interesting. But we're going to cover some of the basics, and we're going to focus on the basics to make sure that by the end of this, everyone listening has a good starting point. This course. And the intention there is you will be confident going into JQL and playing around with it, and you won't be intimidated or frustrated or scared by it, because I was. When I first heard about JQL, it sounded like coding, and that just turned me off entirely. I said, nope, not going to touch it, because I wasn't a programmer. I'll put that in quotes, right? So my goal is that everyone listening to this, by the end of this, is comfortable going in, and at least they know how to use it. But please put your questions. If you have specific things you want me to share or dig into outside of these concepts, let me know. We're also going to get hands-on. I will show you in a demonstration instance, a box seeded with just dummy data, what all of this looks like so you can see how it works and maybe what doesn't work. So just a general question for folks to consider, and this is important when we think about finding things in Jira. What does our team use Jira for? And this is important because what our team uses Jira for will help us understand what we need to search for and how we need to search. For example, if my team uses Scrum to manage projects, I might need to be including sprints in my JQL to find certain work items. If my team is a customer support group, I might need to use SLAs, service level agreements, in my JQL. So before I even start searching, usually I'm taking a minute to consider what are we using it for and what might that tell me about how I search. Now, for folks who might not be familiar, Jira is just a work tracking tool, commonly used by developers, but many other groups use it. So if you're brand new to Jira, welcome. Most of you, I imagine, because you said you use this weekly, are probably pretty familiar with it, but it doesn't just do software. So one thing to keep in mind, as I talk about JQL, I'll try and mix in other examples that aren't just Agile Scrum or Agile Kanban, because many teams will use this. Marketing is being picked on a lot, but customer support, my entry into Jira was with HR, people operations. So the first thing we need to know or understand after we think through what does our team do is to figure out what's a work item. And I'm bringing this up because this is really what we're looking for. We're looking for individual work items, pieces of work that we need to dig out of Jira. Now, they represent something we want to do. And for the purpose of JQL, we need to understand the fields on the work item. And on this example, there are a lot of different fields. This isn't even all of them. Each one of these red arrows points to a different field that we can interact with on this work item or on this ticket. I'll use the term ticket and work item kind of interchangeably. But in my JQL, I can reference any one of these to help find work items or to help narrow down my list. So one of the first things that I do when I go to search is I open up a work item. I find one that looks kind of like what I want, and I go, what's on here? Because if the field isn't on the work item, my JQL won't be able to find it. For example, the component field is widely used to help organize work items. If that field isn't on this work item, my JQL, it's invisible to JQL if I only look for component. So just something to keep in mind that the fields on the work item will directly impact what we can find. I will also remind folks, JQL is a little bit more advanced way of searching. The basic search, the search bar at the top or these filters is also really powerful. And I'm bringing this up because I tend to default to using JQL. I'm very comfortable with it. But sometimes the basic search is quicker. So, there's that old joke, sometimes you don't need the power drill, you just need a screwdriver. I'll encourage folks to practice with JQL, but just keep in mind there are other ways to find things in Jira that aren't JQuil. All right, this screen means we're going to pop into Jira real quick, and I'm going to pop another poll up. just to give us some more interaction. I don't see any questions yet, but again, drop your questions and don't wait for me to stop. And this one's going to have a couple joke answers. Unfortunately, I have to type all these out. What does FOV mean in the context of JQL? What we're looking at is Jira Cloud Premium. Everything I show you in JQL will be available for every version of Jira. So there's nothing I'm going to show you in here that is unique to Premium or Cloud. The only thing that might break that rule is if we start using the artificial intelligence, the Rovo, in here. And so far, everyone's nailing this answer. Y'all are no fun. Pick one of the fun ones. To find this, I just go under Filters and search Work Items. Oop, go away. Now, one thing that tripped me up, I didn't realize that I could switch between the basic search and the JQL. So you might have to click this little button. But what we're looking for is this. And this is a JQL statement. This is one thing that we can run, and it will give us information. Now, the simplest possible statement would just be this. A field, some kind of operator, and some kind of value. Yeah, and this is what can be interpreted by the system. And this is why I was first freaked out by JQL, because I didn't understand what this was saying. Basically, what we're doing is translating human language into something the computer understands. It's no different than writing complex code. It's just a different way of talking to the database. And our JQL has a couple of great features, or Jira has a couple of great features. If I don't know what to type in, I can just start typing, and you'll notice there's this autocomplete. It's going to start suggesting fields that start with these letters. I use this a lot because I'm lazy. I won't type out the word created sometimes. I'll just start typing created, and then click down on the arrow key and hit enter to fill it. And then I'll do a space, and then it's going to show me just the operators that work. We'll talk more about operators in a minute. But JQL is very good at only showing me things that work with whatever I'm looking at. So in this case, I can't do some other operators. I can't use the tilde, for example. I'll talk about what that means in a minute. So I can build my JQL statement just by typing on my keyboard, which is pretty cool. And what's a good date? I think that'll have things. Nope. Let me change this little greater than. So this is JQL, just typing in these terms to get some kind of result. Now again, the results are based on the fields that show up on these work items and my permissions. If I cannot see the work item, JQL can't find it for me. So this is one area of frustration as people use JQL. Someone like Liz might see a work item, but I might not. And then I might be frustrated and talk to someone. And the reason is I just don't have access to that work item. So keep that in mind as well. Just because the JQL should find it, you may not see it because you don't have access. So now just an open question to the group. What is the most frustrating thing for you about finding work items? And drop this in the chat. I'm always curious. For me, it's not knowing what fields exist or not knowing the correct fields to use. Because if I don't know those, I can't find it. But I imagine there are other sources of frustration. So while you ponder that, I'll take a quick sip of coffee out of my world's best Jira admin mug. Because apparently I'm the world's best Jira admin. Which is a lie, because I know several other people that have the same mug. And I'll just drop this in the chat as well, which is gone pretty quiet, so y'all must be following along very well. Now, when we think about JQL, we're really just filtering a database. And that's, I think, why Atlassian calls the search function a filter. Now, on the surface, this doesn't make a lot of sense. But when you start to unpack it and think about it, this concept helped me better search in Jira. It's just like going into a spreadsheet and filtering columns. In this example, I could put a filter on column D for the word low, and I would only get the low priority items. That is all JQL is doing. It's not doing it visually with those drop downs and clicks. It's doing it with text. And so once I understood this concept, this idea that, oh, all I'm doing is adding filters to a bunch of columns, that really helped me understand what I'm doing when I type. Now, this little example is insanely simplistic. Jira has dozens, if not hundreds of columns in its database, but it doesn't matter because as long as I think back to this idea of, hey, I'm just filtering by priority and then by assignee, that helped me unlock a lot of it. Pat has the same challenge I have, just not knowing the filters. And I need to move over the chat, Pat. Sorry about that. There we go. Dan, finding the commands. Yes. We'll talk about operators and keywords as we go. I'll also provide a link to Atlassian's official documentation. Find issues with comments. I can talk a little bit about searching text, which can be confusing. Barbara, operators. Yes. To me, that's kind of like a command. We'll talk about these in a moment. Calculated fields. Dan, are you referring to functions? Olympia, finding task items. Curious Olympia, is that the work type task or something different? And I'm asking so I can try and help you out. And it looks like in my quiz, a couple people picked first order values, but it does stand for field operator value, which we'll dig into. Now, I mentioned they're called filters. This slide is a little bit old. The new UI has been out for quite some time, but it just lives under filters on the left here. We'll play a lot with that when we get hands-on. Already kind of asked this question, the most frustrating thing about JQL. So a little bit more theory before we go back to hands-on. This for me is important because if we don't understand why it behaves the way it does, it's very hard to change the behavior or to fix fix what we're doing. Now I've showed that little switcher, basic JQL. Our statement is what we're writing. So when I think of JQL, what I'm doing is creating a JQL statement. The statement is the total thing that I type in. It's all the text that I send to Jira to get some results. So when you're talking about a JQL statement, you're talking about everything you type into this box. So that term is very useful if you go search for help or if you go talk to people. What you might need help with is a JQL statement to figure out what's going on. You can also save filters as you go. Okay, so we're going to jump back in and we're going to play with JQL a bit, and then we'll talk about like finding commands and playing with text, because that's a good one to bring up. Just a quick reminder, if you haven't already, please hit the like button. There is another way to support the channel by becoming a member. This gets you access to some fun emojis in the chat. I don't know if I have any members on right now, but you also get early access to my videos. So you'll get them at least 2 or 3, 4 days before the rest of the world. And when I meet you in person, I'll buy you a coffee because I'd love to sit down and chat. So again, it lives under filters, under search work items. And really what I'm thinking about when I'm thinking about JQL is this. I'll start with finding issues with comments. So Christina Elena's question. The first thing I have to do is think through, what field do I want? Because that's the first thing I have to understand. So I'm just going to pop open a work item. And I would look for comments. I know offhand this is the comment field. So what I'll do is go back to my JQL and I'll just start typing in the word comment and see what happens. And oh no. I've got a interesting question for the group. Why are there 2 comment fields? And a quick poll. I need to come up with some more answers to this question. Why am I seeing 2 fields, 2 comment fields? So while the group ponders that in the voting, I'll just pick the first one to pick one. We're going to see what happens. Now, if you look real close, there's only 2 operators I can use, 2 things in here. The tilde, the little squiggle, and that's the top leftmost button on my keyboard. It's next to the number 1, is used for text. And this means similar to or like. So I might say, oh, is the comment empty? Let's see what happens if I look for empty comments. Oh, it's yelling at me. This is relatively new. What JQL and Jira will do is if there's a problem, it will pop this up. And if your instance has AI, if it has Rovo, so standard, premium, or enterprise, you might get this pop-up suggesting a fix. This to me is very useful, and it's a great way to learn because it's reminding me, hey, you can't do this. So I'll just click accept. And that's going to update my JQL to something that is valid, something that Jira can read and use. And here I can see all of these work items meet that criteria. Excuse me. Now, what I want is something with comments. So this is where I have to think through, okay, if it's not empty, there should be a comment. So now if I open this up, I'll find something that meets that criteria, which doesn't have any comments. So this I would have to dig into. And what we're seeing here with the comment field, I was looking for description. It changed my JQL. Will it not work for comment? It does not. The answer to this is this bottom one is a custom field. If you see the CF and some number, this is telling me that this is the 234th custom field added to this instance. And this is a good thing that we tripped over. Come back. Because when we use JQL, we have to know exactly which field to reference. And in bigger instances, you'll see a lot of fields that have similar names. This is where it's important to open up a work item and just confirm the ticket name. So this is expected behavior. This is something that does happen, and it's all dependent on how your instance has been configured. So you might want to go to your admin and say, hey, why is there a custom field called comments? What is that for? Why does it exist? Because it's confusing. One thing I will give a shout out to is I have a Discord server, a chat server, where we dig into a lot of these challenges. So I can't dig into every possible scenario here, but in that link, which might require a personal email, there's a lot of folks who chat about Atlassian-related topics and ideas and explore other use cases and bigger challenges. So if I can't dig in enough to your challenge right now, please join us there, and we'll be happy to continue the discussion. Oh, interesting. And Christina Elena is providing more context. The comments, you have a limitation. If there's more than 255 comments, it's showing the comment column is blank. Uh-oh. That is very odd, Christina Elena. If you pop into Discord, I'd love to explore that. That number is very suspicious to me because that is, what is it, 2 to the 8th, I think? 255 is a common limit in computers to things because to go higher, you have to assign more memory to it. The original tweets on Twitter were limited to 256 characters because of that, or 255. So I think Atlassian just programmed that column to stop counting at that number. That's my guess. Yvonne's got a great... Oh, I forgot about this joke. Why is Jayquill like Santa? Let's see if anyone can get this one. Yvonne's asking, where in Jira can we go to view all the fields? The best advice while people think about this question, when I'm searching, I just go look for a work item. And I just start looking around on it. So here I have a company field, a product field. The other way you can find fields is if you go into your search, you can scroll down. It stops after like 20, but if you start typing in characters, these are all the ones that begin with a K or P. That's another way. Jira admins can see a list of every field. Most users can't easily. Abdi Chess, great question, my friend. I mainly talk about Atlassian products and services and things here. That's the focus of the channel. I do have a general background in IT, though. So if you have general IT questions, jump into Discord or drop it in here. I'll see if I can help you. Liz, what do you mean by paginate? And then I'll come right back to my question. How is Jayquill like Santa? They both have clauses. Get it? Santa Claus? Thank you. I'll take my applause now. So, a clause, if we think of a statement as being everything we type into a search, the clause is just one part of that search. So in this screenshot, I'm pulling out one part of the statement, and it's a complete part of a JQL query. This by itself can run and bring me back a result. So that's important to keep in mind. A simple JQL query will be a statement of a single clause. Now it contains a field, the word project, an operator, and then a value. So each has to have all three of these things. Good question, Liz. Not to my knowledge. I can't say only show me the top 50 as an example, or limit. At least I don't think so. Now, this is important to understand because early on in JQL, I made a lot of mistakes. I would forget a value, or I would put the operator in the wrong spot. It always goes field, operator, value. Everyone say it with me. Field, operator, value. Each clause has to have all three things. If it doesn't have all three things in this order, it will break and you'll get that pop-up saying this doesn't work. This is also good theory because it helps me understand what's going on in a statement. As statements get bigger, we add more and more clauses. You might have to pull out one or two clauses and examine them and figure out, why is this in there? What is this clause doing? And if you can identify the clauses, you can then understand the statement. Think of it like a machine. You don't have to understand how the whole thing works all at once. You can take little pieces of it and understand each little part to understand the whole. Now the field is the first part, and this is any field on a work item. Oops, got to back up one. As you type in, it'll start to autocomplete, so you don't have to memorize the names of fields. There will be some fields, though, that you look at and you're like, oh, I just know reporter is a field that I can use. I just know that something else is a field that is available. So keep in mind over time, you will get a lot more comfortable and a lot more familiar with some fields, but by no means would I expect someone to, say, memorize all the fields. You can always just have something open on the other screen and reference it, or you can go in and just start typing and have the autocomplete. Now we talked about custom fields. Custom fields will show up with this number at the end. You can also type in CF bracket 10143 close bracket instead of the name of the field. I typically just type in the name. However, in some environments, you might have multiple custom fields with a similar or identical name. This is not best practice. It will drive you crazy because you'll pick the wrong one. So what you can do instead is just use CF10143. When you see that, two fields with the same name, I always recommend raising your hand, going to IT, going to your admin and saying, hey, there's a problem here. Liz has a great question. And this, I'll start with Barbara's. We'll dig more into this when we jump in, Barbara, but how do we know where the error is? I'll see if I think I have a free instance where I can show you how I troubleshoot errors without AI. And then Liz is saying something about SQL. If you know other query languages, the QL in this comment, those concepts and ideas will help you. They are similar, but they are different. And once we get hands-on, I'll talk about some of the differences. Once you have a field, you then need an operator. This is something that tells Jira, hey, go to the field and then compare somehow. Now, the operator will only return a true scenario. So if I say reporter equals Rob, it'll give me any work item where it is true Rob is the reporter. They are also field dependent. So not every operator works on every field. For example, the reporter field is a list of people. So I can't use greater than or less than. I can't say, is the reporter greater than Rob? That's meaningless. It doesn't mean anything. I could say, is the date greater than a date? So as we type, you'll start to see the valid operators. You can type in an invalid operator, and then Jira will yell at you. So just keep in mind, I make this mistake all the time. The more you'll get more familiar with it and just start to understand which fields do what, but it's not uncommon to accidentally fat finger in or mistakenly type in the wrong one. And last is the value, the thing we are looking for. Rodney is trolling me because I prefer to use the word null. And I'm going to put another fun little poll in here. Just because Rodney is making fun of me. For those of you who don't know Rodney, he is a great guy. He is the Jira guy, what he goes by. He knows a ton about Jira, a lot more than me, I'll be honest, and I'm very glad that he's here because he is a huge help. So thank you for joining us, my friend. So just a quick poll on what does null mean. The value is what you're looking for. In this case, the reporter is equal to Alana, or the current user, or Rob, or Rodney. It's the possible values depend on the field. So this is where my knowledge of Jira is important. It will autocomplete in many cases. So it's not, if I start typing in AL, it'll show me Alana, an alert, and Alex, and Alexander. But I can accidentally type in something that doesn't exist, which can be a problem. They can also be functions, which we'll talk about in a bit. But functions allow us to have a variable, essentially, in our JQL and our Jayquill statement. So those are the three parts of our clause: the field, the operator, and the value. And every clause must have all three or it will fail. And we'll get a fun error just yelling at us saying, "I'm sorry, I can't do that." It is a quick coffee break for Rob. Also a reminder to check out my Udemy course on JQL and to hit the like button if you haven't, just to like the video. And to answer Rodney's question, I use is empty and is not empty at the end of my clauses, because that is a way to determine is the value empty. Okay, to address this poll, the term null is a programming or computer term, and it means that the value is blank. So it's not that it's a space, it's just that there's nothing there. I like that acronym I made up, New Utility Lookup Language. Maybe we should invent that just because it's fun. But it is a common term we'll see in computers to just indicate nothing exists. So for example, I could try to type in something like reporter is null, and that would show me anywhere it is blank. Now, it's generally logically equivalent to empty. Rodney, today's coffee break, I don't have any channel members in here, so no one has sponsored the coffee break. But it is some delicious coffee. So, to build that clause, I just need three things: a field, an operator, and a value. One field I might use is type, and this is the work type. Now, an important thing to note is I see two fields here called type, one with an uppercase, one with a lowercase. But I'm also seeing on the type with the uppercase, it is a drop-down field. So it's also visually showing me, hey, this might not be the field you need. Then I hit a space, and I can see all the valid operators. So I might say type equals, and then if I do another space, it'll start to list out, every possible type. So maybe I'll just do type equals bug. And this brings back anything where the type is equal to the bug. Now the equals operator is important to know, but it only returns a single value. So I can only use it to say type equals exactly this one thing. Type equals just bug. I might have cases where I need the type to be one of multiple things. There's a few ways I could do this. One is very convoluted, I'll say, and I'll talk about in a moment. But I do have an operator that is called in. Ooh, Olympia's also having coffee received from Honduras Western State. I hope it's good coffee. I typically just get coffee from Costco here. It's good enough. I acknowledge there's better coffee, but that's why I have coffee sponsors to help me learn about other types of coffee. The in operator is important because it allows me to have a list of different things. So maybe I want my bug, or maybe I want my type to be bug or task. So this operator is special. It allows me to add multiple possible things. And this is the same as saying, if the type is equal to bug or the type is equal to task, show me. And I'll see if I can find, I'm mostly seeing tasks, these little blue check marks. There must be some bugs in here somewhere. But we do have different operators that help us do different things. We don't need to memorize operators because Jayquill will show us the operator. However, we do need to understand what the different operators can do. So if I don't know that the in operator lets me do that list of things, it's going to be very hard for me to look for a list of things. So it is important to just understand the limitations of some operators and realize that some are better at some things than others. And if you'll excuse me. Now, that's a clause, again, a single piece of a statement. Here's another question. I'm going to put up a poll, and I'm going to have a couple of JQL keywords. Which is not a JQL keyword? Which is not a JQL keyword. And I'm going to check out my friends over in LinkedIn. Now, keywords are reserved words, meaning they can't be the name of a field, and they mean specific things to Jira. Now, they are ways of combining clauses. For example, if I want to find work items where the type is equal to bug and the assignee is equal to Rodney, I need a keyword to combine the clauses. They can also modify logic. They can flip a true to a false. Tushar, thank you for calling that out. I need to just keep in mind that the term project is turned into the term space in Jira. Totally forgot about this because I haven't encountered it much yet. I will be converting as much as I can to use the term space, but for now, the term space and project in the context of Jira are essentially interchangeable. It's not, okay. Tushar, it's not project query language, it's Jira query language, so we don't need to change it. However, I do like the SQL. We can't call it space query language because it's not actually looking at spaces. It's looking at work items. So it would really be WYCL. Oh no. That's funner to say. Excuse me. Now, keywords can also, they play with our logic. Again, all Jayquill is doing is going into Jira and saying, show me work items where it is true that the reporter is Rob and the project is ETMP. I could flip that. Show me work items where the project is not ETMP and the reporter is not Rob. Keep in mind that these keywords are explicitly defined by Jayquill, and they might mean something different than what we as humans consider it. And this is where we have to understand the difference. Oh no. If you can't laugh at yourself, Liz, what do you have? I gotta write down WYCL though. That's way too amusing. I like words that are fun to say, and this one actually means something. But back to my discussion. So in terms of that poll, select is not a JQL keyword. Select is an SQL keyword. And this is where if you understand other query languages, that will help you. However, it's different. What I think happens is on the back end, it uses something like SQL, structured query language. But on the front end, it simplifies it a bit for us. For example, there's no where clause in Jayquill. There's no select in Jayquill. There are no joins in Jayquill. Jira does all of that for us on the back end. It's invisible to us. All we have to focus on are these keywords. We're mainly looking at the where clause if we think of JQL. We don't have to type in where, though. But select is not a keyword. Most of us nailed that one. And because I like laughing at my own jokes, just a quick poll to see if we can get some community involvement. Should we start calling it WICL, Work Item Query Language? Now, these keywords are things that I have memorized just because I've used them enough. Someone said no. Who doesn't want to call it WICL? Sorry. I'm way too amused by this. I've just used these enough that I kind of know what they do. However, it's important for us to understand what they mean. Stefan's got a great point. Keywords also make things more confusing. The more complex the queries get, the harder they are to unpack. And this is why it's important to understand what a clause is. Because if we can understand a clause, it makes it much, much easier for us to know what's going on and also to pull out small pieces to see what they're doing. So next time we go into Jira, we're going to make a complex statement. We're going to use keywords like and or to make a bigger statement. I won't use not, empty, and null too much right now, just because I want to focus on and or, because they can be so confusing. Order by is also used at the end of our statement. It's similar to a group by and order by clause in SQL, if you know what that means. It always goes at the end, and it just basically sorts. So, I kind of yada past this. Let me back up a minute. In addition to hitting the like button and supporting the channel by checking out that QR code, the Udemy course, all that fun stuff, I also really want to understand more about what you all want to learn. This QR code goes to a Google form. Just a couple of questions. It can be entirely anonymous, just letting me know what you think of these sessions and what you want to learn more about. Please let me know what you would find interesting. How can I make these better, more in-depth, more engaging for you? Because this is really for all of you to, wow, I zoomed in way too much, all of you to learn and understand. Y'all have to yell at me when I zoom in like that, because I sometimes forget, and then I feel really silly. So far, 2/3 of us want to call it WICL. That's a majority. I'll take it. So I'll back up here and make sure you all can see this while I drink some more coffee. All right, back into JQL. We're going to spend most of the rest of our time in here. Please let me know if there are specific scenarios you want me to dig into. But I'm going to start just building out a complex query. And by complex, I mean it has more than one clause. I'm going to pick on my friend Max Taylor. So I'm going to start out anywhere the reporter is Max. And I can see that I got some results. This is something I always do. I always test to make sure, does the query work? Or does the individual clause I'm thinking about work? And if I hit a space, I'll get some keywords. So in between my clauses, Jira will autocomplete the keywords. In the same way if I'm typing in a field name, I'm going to start with and. The important thing to remember about and is it makes your results smaller because it requires multiple things to be true. For example, if I look for reporter equals Max, I can see that I get about 136 work items. That means I can't get more than 136 if I need more things to be true. For example, if I need the reporter to be Max and the priority to be low, that's not going to add to that list. It's going to shrink it down. So I'm going to do that and see what happens. And priority equals low. Now I only get 6. So the AND operator will shrink my results because it requires multiple things to be true in order for a work item to show up. If I flip this around, instead use OR, that can grow my results. And we can see that now instead of 136, I have 9,159 work items that happen to meet this criteria. This is an insanely confusing thing that messes with me all the time. And it is a very, very common error. So what I'll recommend, go into your Jira and just practice using the and the or operators. Rodney wants to know what will happen if the reporter equals Max and the reporter equals Rob. You know what, Rodney? I'm going to ask the group. I'm trying to fit all these things. I can't use more than 35 characters in the answer, so forgive me, I couldn't make these longer. So just a quick poll on what happens. Jira explodes was the first thing people clicked. Sorry. And I like how Liz is putting this out. And look for things that have A and B, or look for things that have A. Also, look for things that have B. I like this definition because it doesn't use the word and. Because if I put the word and in here, it's going to confuse me. So again, the and operator will make a smaller list of things, and I can keep adding the and keyword to shrink my list until it disappears. So this one is saying, show me where the reporter is max and the priority is low and the type is bug. That doesn't exist. Now what you'll notice is I didn't get an error. Jira didn't tell me, hey, this is a bad query. It just said nothing matches your search. This is another important thing for us as humans to remember. Jira just does what we tell it. It's possible that in the future this is true and I get a result. But all this is saying is the search that I typed in makes sense to Jira. Now I'm going to break this and put in a nonsensical error. I forget who asked, but this, Barbara, I think, this text at the top is what we'll see if there's no AI. So I'll just say there's an error. The value blank does not exist for the field blank. I'm very quickly going to go into a test instance I have. I think it's this one. Let me make sure that this is what I think it is first. Yeah, this will work. This is a test instance that's in the free tier, so there is no AI. I can see the same error. Sorry, let me back up. It's just going to give me an error saying this doesn't exist. It's not going to suggest a fix because the fix is the AI. But if I don't have Rovo or Atlassian Intelligence, it's just going to tell me what the problem is. But it's not going to give me this nice, hey, here's what I think you should do instead. All right, most people, we've got a tie actually. The same number of people think that we'll get an error message as the work item with both reporters. I kind of played a trick on people with these answers. It is impossible currently for a work item to have more than one reporter. So I have to pick 0 or 1 people to be the reporter of a work item. I can't say Max and Rob reported this. I put that in as a trick just to see our understanding of Jira, but also as a reminder to everyone that our understanding of the system can always improve, and our understanding of the system will help us diagnose and fix our searches. For example, if my team asks me the question Rodney asked, someone comes to me and says, hey, I have to find all the work items assigned to that are, reported by myself and Liz. I'll say, okay, one work item can't have 2 people. So what you mean to say is Rob or Liz. Rodney, you teed me up, but I actually put in the poll. Dun, dun, dun. That's called teamwork, my friend. Thank you. So we're going to try this query. I've got Max Taylor, who's another reporter. Adam. Now, Jira is not going to throw an error. It's just going to say nothing matches this search. And this is because it's not trying to find a work item that has two reporters in the reporter field. It's trying to find a list that overlaps these two things, and it's impossible. I cannot have work items that are true in this state, so this is always going to be false. The way to fix this is to flip the operator to an OR. And the OR operator is going to say, show me every work item where it's reported by Max, and combine that with a list of every work item reported by Adam. That challenge is very common where people get those operators combined, and it's a challenge for me too because sometimes I forget and I end up grabbing the wrong thing, or I end up typing in the wrong information, and then I get very frustrated with myself just because I want it to work and it doesn't. Okay, drop your keyword or operator questions in the chat, please. I really do want to understand more about where I can help y'all out. While I quickly fix a slide that I realize needs to be fixed. There we go. And we're back. Checking out my friends over in LinkedIn. No questions from LinkedIn. Awesome. Okay. I'm going to get a little advanced because I have a few minutes. Rodney's calling out that he's even been in a hurry and messed up. This is just a reminder to everyone that JQL can be hard, right? No one's perfect. We all trip up and need help and make mistakes. I tend to make friends with folks, or I have coworkers who I trust, and I'll send them the query. I'm like, hey, Rodney, I'm having trouble with this. Where did I make a mistake? Or why can't I find this work item? And that's where knowing what's in the system is important. For example, if I'm running a query and I don't think it's working, I'll just go manually find a work item that should show up. Maybe where'd you go? Maybe this work item isn't showing up in my query, and I need to figure out why. This is where my knowledge of JQL extends beyond just the keywords and clauses and into examining the work item to figure out, what did I miss? Did I misspell releases? Is there no release on the work item? Again, JQL will only give me work items that meet my criteria. And if that value is missing or something is different, it won't find that thing for me. Break out our truth tables. What is a truth table, Dan? Is that a table that when you touch it, you only tell the truth? If you could expand on that concept, I can guess based on context, but I actually don't use them. So I'm going to back up, and I'm going to talk about parentheses. I'm going to drop another poll. I need to add one more answer. Have you ever used PEMDAS or PEMDAS, depending on how you pronounce the A? So we can use parentheses to control our logic. And this is a little bit more of an advanced idea in JQL. But Jayquill will first examine things in parentheses and then go out. For example, if I need to understand I might have this query, reporter equals Emma or reporter equals Max and type equals task. You might expect or you might think that this will give you every task where the reporter is Max or Emma. But really what's going to happen is you're going to get everything where Emma's the reporter combined with a list of things where Max is the reporter and it's a task. Because of the way Jira is evaluating this logic, we need to force it to first build a list of the reporters being either Emma or Max, and then restrict it by type. So in this query, I get 484 without the parentheses. If I run this, I'm going to get a much different list of work items. I only get 60. And this is because of how it's evaluating the logic. This is first getting a list of everywhere the reporter is Emma or Max, however many work items that is. Let's actually just run that to see. That gets me 563. Within this list of 563, I then want to restrict it further to say only type equals task. And then I'll get down to my 63 or 60. The way I built this, first doing the or, then adding parentheses, and then adding the and further restrictions, is a good way to build more complex queries because it helps me see what it's doing. Without those parens, I end up with a much different list of things. I get like 900 or something, or 400 different work items. Another very common challenge, especially once we start building complex queries. All right, we are about at time. I do want to talk up my Jira JQL course. This QR code is the same as the one under my head. It takes you to a special Halloween discount over on Udemy. I don't know why I did it that way. But please check it out. It's a few hours of different ways to find things in Jira. It covers the basic search. It covers concepts like field operator value. And it digs into things we didn't have time to talk about, like functions, like more complex query logic using the parentheses, the please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, or parentheses, exponents, multiplicative, division, addition, subtraction, PEMDAS. Whew. Just remember with JQL, if something's in the parentheses, it does that first. Then it goes out. That's kind of what I thought it was, Dan. So please hit this QR code. Also hit the like button. Simplest way to support me. And one more shout out to my Discord community. Great group of folks. I'll pick on Liz. She's in there all the time sharing a lot of knowledge. I really appreciate that. I misspelled course apparently with the word curse. And also I am showing up on a podcast around 2 p.m. with The Jira Life. We're going to be talking about Trelloween, I think the second or third year. So please join me there. I think Rodney's going to be there. We'll have some other folks from the community just chatting about the general state of things. In terms of JQL, please keep getting hands-on. Please keep looking at it. Please keep trying it. Please keep experimenting with it. That is the best way you're going to expand and improve. The next thing I'll encourage folks to do, jump into the community. So this is Atlassian's community. I'll put this in the chat as well. I am in here. A whole bunch of other super smart people are in here. There are discussion groups around Jira. New to Jira is a great discussion group to ask questions and get help if you need it. Check out my YouTube channel and consider joining us in Discord. Again, a great way to learn more about the topic, but also just have continual live chat and discussion with what's going on. I will have another shout out to becoming a member. Get early access to videos, shout outs on things like that. And I do want to thank you all for joining me. I enjoy doing these trainings. I enjoy getting to learn with everyone, and I really hope you found this useful. I'm going to drop one more poll just to see what you all thought of the session. And otherwise, I'll keep the chat open for a couple minutes just to see how folks are doing. But thank you for learning me about Jayquill, or JQL, or Jayquill, as we would like to call it. That's not going to get old ever. It's just funny to say. And have a great Thursday wherever you are. Again, check me out on the Trello Life, on the Jira Life later today around 2 p.m. Pacific, and look out for more live sessions. I had a bit of a break. I'll be back into doing some as we go. Oh, it was spooky. Thank you, Rodney. All right, folks. Thank you again. I'll leave you here. Please check out the QR code, hit the like button, drop a comment, let me know how I can help you, and I'll see you all again very, very soon. Stefan, you're welcome. Dan, you're welcome. Yvonne, glad you liked it. If you are doing anything for Halloween or Harvest Festival or whatever you call it, please stay safe, have fun. I'll be going trick-or-treating with my family, which is always hilarious and adorable. Liz is screaming at us. Rob is on the Jira Life today. I am. It is Trelloween. Can I show... I have a little video too. Maybe I'll show this as a... How can I do this easily without blowing out everyone's eardrums? I've put together this little video for folks. I'll turn down my output just in case. Back up so you can hear me. So a happy Trelloween, folks. Have a great one, and I'll see y'all very soon.